question is, how do all these developments impact the case? For some legal analysis, let's get to our breaking news desk with Atlanta News First anchor attorney Joy Lim Nakrin. She's joined by criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Josh Schiffer. Joy?
Well, Lana and Josh joining me here, we do know that appeals can come from any of the defendants in this case. And of course, on the prosecution side, Josh, you say that there is really a process to this and there's a very specific timeline.
Yeah, unlike the order that we received earlier in this week, this ruling did not include an automatic certificate of review, which would be basically a free pass up to the Court of Appeals. Instead, if any of the litigants want to bring this up to the Court of Appeals, they're going to have to apply within 10 days for that certificate of review, and then that's going to be discretionary in the hands of Judge Scott McAfee.
And so we see that in this ruling, there's kind of an either-or decision that Ms. Willis has to make. If she wants to stay on the case, essentially, she would have to remove the special prosecutor that she appointed, Nathan Wade. But I'm wondering, is it possible, is it likely that she would see, that we would see her comply with that order, remove Mr. Wade, and yet at the same time also file an appeal to this decision?
I think it's very unlikely for the state to appeal, because any appeal would impact the calendar, as we've just been discussing. The calendar and trying to get this case tried before the November general election is a big goal of Fani Willis. So I believe any appeals we're going to see are going to come from one of the remaining defendants, and it can come from any of them that joined in this action.
And that said, because there are so many defendants in this action, what do you think that the new timeline might be? Is it even realistic that this goes to trial, in time for the election?
It's absolutely still on the table. Previously, Fani Willis has indicated it would take her office about 30 days to prepare for trial, and she's asked for a trial date as early as August. Practically, that gets more difficult as each day passes. Any appeal of these matters, either the order from Wednesday or this order, takes months and months and months. Up to 18 months is pretty much the average. So whether the trial continues in the meantime, that's up to some difficult decisions we don't have the answers to yet.
Now, as for the charges themselves, there was, I would say, a little bit of foreshadowing earlier this week when Judge McAfee dropped 6 of the 41 counts that were on the table. I think that already signaled to many in the legal community that the charges would remain in place. That said, the statement that we heard from Steve Sadow, Mr. Trump's Georgia attorney, seems to indicate that they're going to continue to fight all of those charges. What do you think we could see in terms of that? Will these charges ultimately stick?
I believe there's going to be multiple appeals and additional requests and movement in the court, motions being filed by the various defendants, pushing back against the state. Mr. Sadow's statement very clearly references what the judge did not take into consideration and alludes to other remedies in other courts that could apply to D.A. Willis. In fact, Judge McAfee himself references that within this opinion and this ruling, indicating that other groups could pursue remedies outside of this actual trial.
All right, criminal defense attorney Josh Schiffer joining us live here from the Breaking News Desk. Thanks for your expertise and analysis. Lana and Rick, back to you.
All right, Joy and Josh, thank you both.
Yeah, a lot to digest here, but Atlanta News First has been your one stop for everything surrounding the Georgia indictment and what's still to come. If and when D.A. Willis responds to today's ruling, you'll be the first to know through the free Atlanta News First app.